So who else would be looking for these type of midterm rentals?
So there's a list of people. So you would have, traveling professors, traveling doctors, nurses, people between renovations. If your house sells, but you don't close on the house you're buying, you're between
that happens a lot.
That does happen a lot, actually. So we have those people between divorces. Let's say you want to liquidate the house and then you both want time to figure out where you're going to live, or one side of the family wants to stay in the home because the kids want to finish school. They want to stay in that neighborhood. They'll sort of try to look for something without having to move and uproot the family.
Welcome to Real Talk with Gary. If you are listening to this show, that means you are either searching or ready to make a financial change in your life. This show is not only about real estate investing, but also the importance of mindset and the roadmap to a better, healthier life. Learn the daily routines of successful entrepreneurs and the latest market strategies and trends to stay ahead of the curve. Ready for some down-to-earth, north-of-the-border Canadian talk? Here's your host, Gary Hibbert.
All right, welcome back. And today I've got my good friend Sarah Larbi and Aisha Govani, and they are the owners of midterm rental properties. And we had a very interesting conversations specifically on this strategy. And I think if you've been obviously following the market, you saw what happened in 2022. I think a lot of investors have got themselves in some difficult situations. And one of the ways that I've observed and seen some investors pivot is moving to this particular strategy. Sarah, obviously, being the savvy investor that she is, she obviously saw an opportunity here. And I think it's a great option. It's something that I'm looking to do with one of my properties that currently became vacant. And I'm going to probably most likely use their services. I don't even know if I have a choice, right? So I'm going to probably use their services. And I think by the time this is released, the property should be fully furnished and hopefully up and running. So I'm definitely excited about that. And we dive into a lot of very important topics on this, like avoiding scams, what's the difference between the midterm, short-term, and long-term, what type of properties make the most sense for this strategy, getting the cleaners in there, the accounting piece of it, how it fits into the landlord and tenant board. So very interesting conversations. If you're thinking about pivoting to this particular strategy, I highly, highly recommend that you sit back and listen to this particular show. Now, before we do dive into it, I do want to talk on another important aspect that you need to put into your tool belt, which is competence, right? And really, I think the important thing here is it's about becoming excellent in your field of work. And excellent isn't like a destination. I think people get this mixed up. It's actually a journey. And when you become excellent, doors begin to open because people want to give you more opportunities and they also want to give you more responsibility. One of the things that I've realized over the years is that you only work 8 hours a day for survival. Anything over 8 hours is for success. And when I take a look at what I've done over the last 12, 13 years of doing this, most of the success that I've had has come after the typical corporate world of working 8 hours in being an entrepreneur or starting a new business. And the biggest enemy to this is complacency and satisfactions. Those are the key enemies to excellence. All right. So I hope that tip helps. And again, if you're enjoying the show, don't forget to leave a review to allow other people to find the podcast, right? Again, it helps with the algorithm. And we've got some great events that are continuing to happen at smarthomechoice.ca. Go check that out. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy today's show. And with that, I have nothing else to say. So sit back, relax, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Take care. Today's show is brought to you by SFG Paralegal. Their services are all about advocating for your best interest. With a team experience of over 15 years, they assist everyday people with their legal queries and matters. They are skilled in landlord and tenant board, small claims court, and human rights, amongst others. They are professionals, and SFG Paralegal are exactly who you want in your corner. All right. Well, you just said it again. So you know what, I'm going to say it anyway. So we started this all over again because we probably talked about some stuff that we probably shouldn't be talking about. But anyways, you heard a little drunk story, but too bad you're not going to hear the rest of it.
Probably for the better.
Yeah. But I will tell you an interesting story that I just told you guys. You know, we just had a boys' weekend, and our cottage is a 3-season cottage. And we were up there and we're hanging out, having some drinks, wake up the next morning, go to the washroom, and it doesn't flush. So obviously the antifreeze wasn't in the toilet or in the piping underneath. And so we had to go underneath to try and disconnect the plumbing from the toilet. And it was a complete mess of what was coming.
Literally.
From, no shits.
No fun.
no shit. Okay. And it just got to the point where we're like, okay, look, we got to make a choice because it was completely filled with ice and we're not going to get this thing out. We're not going to be able to thaw it out proper or in time. And so we're like, okay, either we stay here and find a bathroom. So we find a bathroom at a gas station not too far from us. And it was actually a nice little bathroom. So then we ended up having to take trips to the bathroom for the whole boys' weekend.
The whole weekend, this happened at the beginning of the weekend?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't just go stay at my cottage because it was probably vacant.
Yeah.
And it's 4 seasons.
Well, okay, look, if we had to take a piss, then that was fine. We just go in the snow. Just don't eat yellow snow, obviously. But other than that,
that's true.
then we had to take a drive to the gas station. Anyways, I think that was a better intro.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it gets us in less trouble.
Yes.
Exactly. So how are you guys doing?
Good.
Awesome,
good.
man.
Yeah?
We're doing great.
Yeah.
Good.
You?
Good. Busy. I hadn't done to Mexico. So by the time this podcast comes out, I would have been back from Mexico.
Yes. And now we're meeting in Mexico.
But I just found out that you and, who else is going to be down in Mexico?
My whole family.
The whole family's going to be in Mexico?
The kids. Yeah.
And now you guys are going to be on a property tour down there.
We are. It was like we spoke it. He's like, we need to go there. Let's check out some properties while we're there. And then we happened to see you. You mentioned it, and we're going to sign up for your tour.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really excited about it because we've got a really good team down there. We got like the real estate team, and they've got like vans, and they'll take us around. They've got like a whole camera crew. They're going to introduce us to our property management team. We're going to bring our designer in. My accountant's going to dial in or zoom in as well too. So he's going to talk about, how to do the whole insurance piece and take your money out of corporations tax-free. So it's going to be a great event. And then we're going to take a look at properties, and we're going to do some wine and cheese back at our condo. And then we're going to go out for dinner.
You had her at wine.
I'm like, you had me at We'll Be in Mexico with you.
Yeah.
We see each other. I'm like thrilled.
So I didn't need to say all that then.
No, I would have been there at Belvon.
You know what the cool thing is, and Matt and I tell this story quite a bit too, is that guy that we met that does property management. And we're like, what happens if somebody rents and doesn't leave? And they're like, you just get them out. Yeah, but like how? Because like here we have such a process. Like, just get them out. No other thing needed to, be talked about. And
that's it.
It's I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Is like you're in charge of your properties.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's how it should be.
Things are done different in Mexico.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So anyways, we're not talking about Mexico today. We're talking about midterms. Mm-hmm. You've obviously made a pivot in your investing since what's happened in 2022. We all know that interest rates have gone up significantly. Mm-hmm. Why midterm, and what exactly is it? It's obviously different from short term.
Yeah. So midterm is, 30 to 6 months, essentially 30 days to 6 months. But it really came, I want to say it was like 2020, 2019 when I started saying, okay, I don't love sometimes the lack of control and potential low cash flow from a long-term rental. Short-term is amazing, but it doesn't, necessarily always work in every single market with the bylaws and whatnot. So that midterm ended up actually working out really well. And we had a couple units that we've been doing for a while, and we had amazing guests. And these were people that were in transition. So a lot of them have sold a house, we're moving, some to Australia, some to BC, all over the place. We ended up finding in the very beginning a company that had executives come and stay. And so they rented that place for about 6 months. They were awesome. So a lot of people in transition, doing construction, companies, corporate clients, and with the rates increasing, it just became something to really consider, especially in rent controlled units for Ontario. And I can't speak for every single province, but in Ontario, if we can only raise by 2.5%, well, I mean,
and that's the highest it's been in a long time.
The highest. And, if inflation is like 6, 7, 8%, and
so they say,
I think it's way higher.
For sure it is. 100%.
Even before this nonsense, I always was very wary about how they calculate it, right? Like meat versus meat. It doesn't have to be the same meat every single year. Like sometimes you get like shit meat, and that's what they compare it to when they compare inflation. Anyways, but aside from that, just the ability to like look at like the fact is in Ontario, rents are going to go up 20%, in my opinion, next year, another 20% the year after. So why would I lock myself into a 2.5% when I'm going to be 40% off in 2 years from now?
Right.
So that in combination with the higher cash flow, in combination with the different client base, like these are usually homeowners that rent temporarily, it just made sense. And ironically, I want to say it was about a year and a half ago, I told Paul, my marketing person, I'm like, buy all these domains, monthly rental properties, midterm rental. Like this was like before we even came up with this business.
When did you tell him to do this?
I want to say it was about a year and a half ago.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Because what's your website again? Because I heard it.
Midterm rental properties.
And I was like, how the hell did you get that?
Yeah, because I bought it so long ago. I'm like, this is going to be a thing. But I was doing so many other things that I didn't really have time to focus on it. And it's funny because on my goals, it's like fall of 2022. And that's actually when we started it. But that was originally like when I looked at my goals and what I wanted to do in January, I'm like, this is going to be something I'm going to do in the fall. The resort and everything else is obviously like a lot of work. And we were doing some other development stuff and we were doing some other bird deals, but I knew it was going to be something. And then we got together and made it happen.
So when did this start? The midterm rentals business?
Like October.
October.
We
Okay,
launched
but you guys
course.
have been together longer than that, obviously. You guys got together, a year and a half ago?
Yeah, a year and a half.
Year and a half on Instagram.
Okay. and so then when you guys got together, you were an exec, right?
Yeah.
And then now you are business partner, I believe?
That's right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
She's like, I'm going to go work for Sarah. She told her husband.
Yeah. Before I even applied.
Before she applied, I had posted something because I needed some help for an executive assistant, and you applied, and a lot of other people, and I met you, and I'm like, hey, I have to just, interview everyone that applied because they all came from, but I'm like, you're like definitely the top. So yeah, here we are today. And then, ultimately I'm a big believer in giving people opportunities where, if they earn it and they show that they can do it. I don't think people need to be stagnant in their roles and their jobs forever. And so I think at one point you asked for a raise. I'm like, sure, because you've proven yourself. And then I'm like, why don't you just come in and be a business partner in this company? And I will say, like, I'm big on ideas, and like, I don't know if you're like this too. And I don't like all the small details of implementation. And I think you're very good at that in comparison to, what I like. Not that you don't think big picture at all. I don't like the detail day-to-day stuff as much.
We've talked about this before. Like, I don't like the detail stuff either, like the numbers and that is what Darlene is really good at. And I have other people on my team that are great at that. I'm more bigger picture, like kind of like the direction of the boat. Like where are we going? Where's the vision?
Darlene has to worry about the gas.
boat, because otherwise you're going to get straight. And I'm sorry, you just walked right into that one.
Well, so you got that. He knew which way the boat was going, but Darlene was supposed to remember the gas. It was her fault. The detail wasn't there. No,
there you go.
Love you, Darlene.
Okay, so listen.
Yeah.
I got a lot of questions on midterm rentals. I've got a property that's coming up in Bowmanville, and we're going to probably talk about this a little bit later on because it's going to be vacant in a couple of weeks. I'm probably going to need your services. Well, this podcast is an interview. So let's see if you get the job. Okay, so what's the difference though between a short-term rental, midterm rental, long-term rental? Like there's a duration, correct?
So I'd say short term is up to 28 days, and midterm is anything 28 days up to, I guess, a year, but under a year, month to month. You do not sign a lease; you're still a guest. And then long term is anything 12 months or more, and you're therefore signing a lease.
Okay, so 28 days or more. What does this agreement look like? Is there an agreement at all, or is it, because obviously you're advertising on Airbnb or VRBO? Like, how does that come together?
So we actually have our own platform, and most of my client base, when they're on our platform, most of the guests come through my platform. We allow the guests, the investors, to post on external platforms such as Airbnb or VRBO, but I would say 90 to 95% of my bookings are off of our internal platform through our sales team.
We actually have salespeople calling and building the relationships because Airbnb has become very saturated. So they can still put it on Airbnb, but we're not like a management company. We're like a client's service company. So we bring the clients to the investors that have openings.
Right.
They can still do their own thing, like Aisha said, on Airbnb. But we're actually making calls and we are actually making connections with corporations, with relocation companies, with the film industry, with like et cetera, so that they call us directly and they're like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, rather than going through the Airbnb
That's a good
platforms.
idea. Like, so instead of actually just waiting sometimes, I guess, for people to find you on these sites, you're actually reaching out to these corporations that you know that they are either bringing in execs or who knows, managers, VPs coming in for a month or 6 months or whatever the term is of the project they're working on, and saying, hey, look, if you need a midterm rental, come to us. Right?
Yeah. And some of them will still say, like, I know we had one today. They just have a lot of people traveling all the time, but they also want some like shorter stays, which we can always also do. You know, we're not like exclusive to 30 days plus. And I mean, obviously, if the bylaws allow it, we'll consider some shorter stays as well.
Right.
And to answer your question though about a contract, we actually had our paralegal draft up a guest agreement. This is not a standard lease that we use. That's very important to know that, because as much as possible, and anything can still slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
We want to keep it as commercialized as possible, meaning not part of the RTA as much as possible. Again, like, right, there's no foolproof be all and end all. But if we do a guest terms agreement and we have certain things in place that makes it look like it's more of a commercial type of operation, you're, at least moving things in your favor.
Right. So who else would be looking for these type of midterm rentals?
So there's a list of people. So you would have, traveling professors, traveling doctors, nurses, people between renovations. If your house sells, but you don't close on the house you're buying, you're between
That happens a lot.
That does happen a lot, actually. So we have those people between divorces. Let's say you want to liquidate the house and then you both want time to figure out where you're going to live, or one side of the family wants to stay in the home because the kids want to finish school. They want to stay in that neighborhood. They'll sort of try to look for something without having to move and uproot the family.
Immigration lawyers. So we've tapped into a few really cool immigration entrepreneur centers that they actually help business owners develop a concept here, and they actually fund them. And so when they land, they need a place temporarily until they find like a rental for a little bit longer or whatnot. But it really ultimately, like, anybody that's either traveling, relocating for work, or is in between homes.
Yeah.
Got it. Now, is there what makes a good property for midterm rental? Like, can you use is a basement suite okay? Or is it like a full house? Can you do it in a 2-unit?
So our clients are usually homeowners themselves, generally. So you want to ensure, I generally tell our investors basements do not do well, because if you're a homeowner, you don't want to go from a home top floor into a basement. You want it to be in good condition. It has to be furnished well. For the type of clientele we offer it to, there is definitely a quality assured standard. It has to be designed in a certain way. Certain amenities need to be included. Certain utilities need to be included. Certain setup needs to happen. So we do have a process that, as you interview us as your property allocation team, we interview you as a client as well, because we are promising our guest clients that we are giving them a quality assured place each and every time. So that's our brand on the line. So those certain elements need to pass an executive level of design and an executive level of setup.
Yeah, and that's great too, knowing that most of the families or the individuals moving in are typically homeowners, right? Because now, they're probably used to a certain standard. And I guess that's maybe even the next question now too, like, what do you typically find to be required or needed in these type of homes, right? Like, in a long-term rental, you may say, okay, yeah, the flooring's fine, so we'll just leave it. But in a midterm, you're probably looking at higher end, whether it be furnishings or finishes. What are some of the ones that you see to be important to have?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be like super luxurious, luxurious or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go to like Structube or do something that looks pretty good, but it does have to look new.
I like Structube. They got some great stuff.
I love. Yes, you just bought something for your office, right? From Structube.
Yeah, and you knew right away as soon as you saw it.
I know because I know their product,
Right.
And they've been like putting it together, and then the assembly is a whole different story. But the the look and the feel of a lot of their furniture is great. But ultimately, like really, like if you have laundry, if you have parking, if you have some yard space, like good Wi-Fi, the opportunity for them to have like a desk or an office area. And it just obviously has to look clean and well put together. But there's the way to look at it from a property standpoint, but you should also look at it from a neighborhood standpoint. So you'll do better in the areas that have a lot of homeowners versus an area that has a lot of renters, because these are homeowners, and a lot of them that will stay with me, for example, want to stay in the same school zone for their kids, or want to stay in the same area for whatever reason for work. And because we do want to cater to homeowner, it is a lot easier to be in a neighborhood that is more owner based versus more renter based. If you're in an area that has, a hospital close by, you might get a lot of family members visiting, as an example, for an extended stay. If you're in an area where there's, some boarding schools or private schools, those can still do fairly well if you've got parents that are visiting, but look for where the growth is, right? So like you've got to look at like the areas, and you got to look at the neighborhoods, and then you look at the property itself.
Right. How do you avoid scams?
So our contract, and we do guest screening. So a lot of our guests actually come
because we're calling them.
Yeah.
Directly.
Yeah. So they're usually not one-offs. Like we rarely get someone off the street who emails me and is like, I need a place to stay. It's usually through another guest allocation company we've partnered with, who's contacted us, through an HR representative, through someone who's looking to a headhunter, a recruiter. So these are all already vouched for clients. And because they're booking with us directly through these companies, and because of our setup and our structure, we do specifically try to avoid the single-ended clients, just because, to answer your question exactly, how do we avoid scams? And if we're looking for volume, right? So if I'm sending my sales team out, we're generally looking to work with big corporations and bigger entities. So when the people come through them, they've already sort of been vouched for, and they're represented by a bigger company who's not going to tarnish their reputation by putting us through something like that.
Is it a common thing though, where people are trying to kind of get into these midterm rentals and you're catching them?
Yeah, there's been attempts for sure where they'll say literally like, I'd say like, well, what would you need our rental for? Like to live.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like we're not a long-term rental company, and to me, especially if they want to start on the first of the month, there's always a red flag, right? It's like, why the first of the month? Are you a renter, and then all of a sudden you're like being evicted and you're kicked out, or like something? You know what I mean?
Right.
So we don't. I mean, I know this sounds bad, but we are not a rental. Company for renters. We're a rental company for corporate executives, people in transition with another primary residence of some sort. Could something still fall through the cracks? Absolutely. Like how many scams I get on Airbnb of people just trying to rent a place that have no reviews, no background. It just seems sketchy. You've got to trust your gut along the way, but ultimately, if we are reaching out to them specifically and we're building those relationships, like a lot of the corporations that are like, hey, we have, a few employees coming here, they're probably legit.
Right. So do you find now though that you've done that legwork, reaching out to these corporations? It sounds like you're probably going to continue to keep doing 100%. That.
It's a sales role. Got to keep going.
Right. So do you find that you're getting better? You're obviously going to get better leads, but do you find that you're kind of more focused on that now?
In terms of what?
As opposed to say Airbnb or VRBO or Kijiji or wherever else you're advertising?
So we don't actually touch any of those. So we have like maybe a couple of properties we'll support on Airbnb as like a favor. Let's say the person's out of town entirely. I'm like, okay, I'll help you with your listing on Airbnb. But like I said, 95% of my properties, we just work off our own platform and our sales team.
Yeah, and Airbnb can still be utilized by the clients. So our investors that come to us and say, hey, we want to utilize your services to help, like as an additional way to find clients, they could still go on Airbnb themselves. We're just not necessarily going to manage their Airbnb clientele. Yeah. But if they want to rent it out on Airbnb as well, like in between the time that we're finding them clients, absolutely go for it.
Yeah. Okay, that I like that. And so where are you guys located right now? Like, or what areas are you servicing?
Canada.
Mm-hmm. Really?
We're heavy in Ontario, but we are like, the plan is to build it cross country.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we'll need a lot more stuff, but we're starting small. We're starting small, and then we expand. But as requests come in, then we look into those areas and we start making calls into those areas.
We just switched from sleep to changing battery packs. We're just like, just switch it out. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, I see that. That's wild. So who's running this right now? Is it just the two of you? Or do you have, no, because you're obviously bringing in partners as well too, right? So outside of the business partner, who is in your business?
So from a corporate standpoint, Lee, myself, and Aisha have equal shares in the business. But on top of that, we have Allison, who does all our sales. So she does sales for guests. And then we have a couple people that do the investor onboarding. So they bring them in, get everything that we need in order to like understand what the property is, do the quality assurance checks. And just that way we can start pairing. We are going to need a ton more people for sure, but we got to start somewhere. And this is where we're at. So I want to say we've got, 3 staff plus us.
Yeah, plus us.
Awesome. Congrats, man. That's amazing. So what about, what was the thought, the question that I had now? I can't remember. Oh, information. Like, what are you collecting? Are you looking for pay stubs? Are you looking for,
from the guests?
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things I will say is you've got to be careful you don't cross the line into what you would be asking for from an RTA standpoint from a long-term tenant, which is what our paralegal told us. Because you got to you've got to ask for enough that makes you feel comfortable without doing a check that you would if it was long-term. But go ahead.
No, exactly that. Yeah. I was going to say that we have to be very careful what we ask for. But again, generally when they come through the guest, one of our corporate partners or another, we just give a form. It's called guest terms, and they'll fill that out with the information that our paralegal has.
Credit card, car, vehicle, make and model, and their primary residence is a big one, like where they actually physically live in between is huge. But other than that, we like names and full names and that kind of stuff. But we can't go into full checks. Could you? Sure. But like a lot of these are corporate clients and we don't want to also cross the line into the RTA stuff. As like, again, could something happen and we'd still be, it's case law and it has to go through regardless, but we're trying to do it as much as possible so that things are clear that it's more of a commercial arm than a, long term. So even just like, for example, like not providing any keys to any of the guests, regardless, right? It's like a keypad code that you can change on your phone at any time, put your cameras out there. So there are certain things that you want to do, put the, like a little bit Airbnb sign or like a little short-term or mid-term sign somewhere on the door. And I'm not saying that this will happen, but you want to take the precautions ahead of time.
Right. So walk me through the process then. So let's say now there's somebody listening, a tenant just left their property. It's vacant. They got no furniture. What is this going to cost them to kind of get this up and running?
Sure.
So obviously they're going to need furniture. They're going to need forks and spoons and knives. And there's obviously a lot that goes into this. And what's your typical average cost, say for, we'll say like a single family home, I don't know, whatever, 1,600, 1,800 square feet.
3-bed?
3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. That's your typical single family home.
So I'd say about.
Again, it really depends if you're getting all brand new stuff or like if you're like scouring for like the deals and stuff. But
okay, so let's do the low end, high end.
Yeah, you're probably looking at between like 10 to 20. Like there's a range, obviously, to set everything up. But
this includes like everything. Like she's talking like top
sheets,
to bottom, utility.
Forks, knives, all the furniture, the TV. Like, if you can find deals and you go to, some of the dollar store is pretty cheap. Like it depends on where you're getting the stuff. Like for me, sometimes I would rather just be like, go to StrucTube for all the furniture, and then I would go to Amazon for everything. Like, could I save some money by like actually physically going to the dollar store and getting some things? Yeah, probably. It really ranges.
Right. And then you've got boots on the ground that are helping you do this in these different cities. So are you reaching out to, is it stagers? Are you reaching out like who?
Actually, one of your ladies is one of our
Hannah.
Designers.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Really like her.
Yeah, okay.
She just set up a house for us in Whitby, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it varies. So
I partner with the right people.
yeah, of course.
I saw her on your Instagram. I'm like, you know what? We don't have anyone for like out your way yet. So it was like a perfect match.
Yeah.
Thank you for that referral.
Good.
Yeah. So we'll offer that. Sorry, were you going to say something?
It's incredible how social media works. It's just a simple post And
Wait, we met on social media, and we met on we all met on social media actually.
know.
But that's actually how I met you, Gary.
yes, social
We
media.
were like nearby, and I'm like, come over to my cottage. We clearly have cottages like in the same area, so
Yeah.
that's how we met. And then you and I met because you answered one of my posts because I needed help.
Yeah, but I actually never go on Instagram and I never look at stories. So it was like almost a fluke that I saw you.
Hey, I'm trying to remember because I know we've talked about
Yeah,
this
you
a
brought
couple
one
of
beer in
times.
your pocket. I'm
Oh,
like,
God,
you
here
got
we go.
beer, man. I'm never gonna let that one go. He's like, he like comes.
I should have brought a case of beer.
Oh, not a case of beer. We have beer.
I know, but I also too. I knew you were gonna have a bone shaker there. I think it was a bone shaker I brought along with me. So it was a
there's the
particular
truth.
beer that I like. It was an
Our
IPA.
beer wasn't good enough for you.
No, but I'm trying to remember the exact post that it was. It was obviously because I think at that time too, you were making this wave in social media, and somebody probably posted or reshared something that you had posted, and I'm like, who is this Sarah Larbi? Let me just follow her and see what she's all about. Okay, she's actually not bad. And then the rest is history.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we're going with
Yeah,
this.
you guys are probably in my top 5 of like people we hang out with.
Yeah, we do. We just went out for dinner not too long ago.
Yeah, it was good.
What's it called again? Porcello Cantina.
Porcello, I don't know, something.
You
Yeah,
guys trying to
Porcello
go back to
Cantina.
Mexico times?
Yeah, and then we were just in Mexico a couple months ago.
It's nice.
Yeah, I loved it down there. I love it down there. And then hopefully you guys will pick up a property down there.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to midterm. That was our little commercial break. We were talking about
Setup.
Yes, the setup.
Yeah. So but she's right, about 10 to 20 based on the size of your property. You know, some people will come to me and say, oh, I do have already like good sets of furniture. And I'll say, hey, if you have things that match, don't offer me something from your mom's basement that you used when you were in high school that she still has. It's got to be good quality. It doesn't have to be luxury, but it does have to, have a good theme going through. Things have to be in good condition. Durability, I'd recommend just for the sake of your property. And then all the other features that Sarah mentioned. You want to have, of course, your security camera outside, your automatic keypad. So those all add up. But I would say, like 18 to 20 for a 3-bedroom, fully turnkey, ready to go to have my first client in there is roughly your investment.
Okay.
Because remember, you're making, of course, more each month than you would long term.
You're probably at like 2 times what you would make, give or take. Again, it depends on the area. But like if you're going to make $2,000 a month, you're probably making $4,000 a month at the
Really?
market. So
Okay, so I'm excited about this because again, so one of my tenants are actually leaving. They're moving down to Panama. Their last day is actually today. Funny enough, the last day is today. And they reached out to me about a month ago and they're like, Gary, we're leaving. And I don't know what to do with all this furniture.
I was just going to say to you, we should ask them
is
to
it
sell
nice?
to
Is
you.
it nice
It's
furniture? though?
not bad.
Okay.
It's not bad.
All right.
So we went over there.
Okay.
And Darlene and I walked around and we're like, okay, we'll take most of it.
How much did they charge you?
$3,500.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
so
does that include
it's
all
like
the,
forks and
small-
knives and
Yeah,
spoons and
good for you,
tables
man.
and
Deal.
That's amazing.
beds
Amazing.
and so everything, right? And
Because you
so
were such good landlords.
yes. Now they've been there for I don't even know now, 8 to 10 years. But I'm telling you, that place is spick and span.
Nice.
There's a few things that we need to do in there. So I'm probably going to now, a next step now. So here's a great thing that we can go through for somebody who's listening to this podcast because I'm going through this right now. So next step now is what? I reach out to you.
Well, I already talked to Darlene, so we already did the first step.
You did?
I did
okay,
indeed, yeah.
awesome. Okay, see all
I
these,
already talked to
and this
her.
is big.
Mike's already on top of it.
This is big vision. See, I don't need to know everything that goes on all the different businesses that I'm doing, right? So perfect.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So next step. So let's say I hadn't talked to her, and
Yep.
you would come to me and you would say, "Hey, I should have my property." For example, we'll talk specifically about you. It's semi-furnished or fully furnished. What's next? I'd say, well,
Right.
here's our intake form. You'd fill that out. It would give us details about your property. Here's my Calendly. You and I would set a time to chat. We'd review your property, what you've been doing with it, when it will be available. I'll give you my stats on the area that you're in, what I think your occupancy will be, what I think your monthly rate will be. And if you are happy, I'll tell you about how our intake works, which is currently, as of February 2023, if anyone listens later, the current intake is $150 annually to onboard your property, and then no other fee until we book.
Okay.
And when we book, it'll be roughly 20% on top of the net we have already discussed with you. So you and I decide what you're happy with taking home monthly so that you're not eating out of pocket, and we pad that. And then we add our fee on top, the cleaning fee, For every stay over a month, there has to be a mandatory cleaning fee for each month a cleaner goes in, and that's on the guest. So we'll add that on top so that they pay for a cleaner every month to ensure your property is maintained through the stay.
I like that.
And then the final booking, the final checkout cleaning, we add all that in total, then we know what the value that we're going to offer to the guest is. The beauty of how we work is we're not actually looking at market rents. We're not looking at what Airbnb is asking for. I'm working with the corporation. They tell me what their budget is. And sometimes it's more. And sometimes I can pull more out of them because the importance for them is location and quality and availability. And they're willing to pay that for some of their staff. So in a way, I give like a bare minimum. Like, this is what I'm going to do my best to get you every month. But if I can always get more, I will always try to get more.
Right.
And let's just keep in mind, too, that these corporations don't actually go on Airbnb, many of them, to do this. They have people like us that they reach out to directly. And they're like, here's what I need. And this is an industry, but nobody's skilled. Like, nobody has scaled it. There's a lot of small one or two people doing it in like Toronto specifically, or like they're like small pockets, right? So what the issue is, and we've talked to many of them because we've partnered with many of them, anything past their core, they have no ability to really help these clients.
They need us, essentially, actually. They need us.
Yeah. Because Toronto has done it for a while, these executive corporate rentals, but like.
So you guys are taking it to the next level.
We're taking it to the next level.
How do I get a job?
We're always hiring.
You know what? Just take me to Mexico. We'll take care of you.
Okay, so then what about storage? What about supplies? Like, I mean, I don't think supplies are going to be as heavy as, say, like a short-term rental, but you obviously need a supply room. Like, do you give access to the basement, or would you lock that off?
Usually it's like a locked storage space. So like if there's an extra closet, then they put a lock on that, and then the cleaner would get into it, and then the cleaner would essentially let them know like once they're running out. It's not a bad idea for them to still check once in a while just to see.
Yep.
But in terms of storage, I mean, you know, again, like, is there a basement that has space? Sure. But sometimes there's no basements, or sometimes the basement is also a unit, right? That's rented. So find a closet and just put a lock on that, or a keypad, and then just have the cleaner access it.
Got it. Okay. So let's say my basement's unfinished and this property is unfinished.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah,
You lock that?
Yeah, you lock it.
Yeah, just lock it, because I mean, you know, there's storage down there as well too. So instead of doing it in the kitchen, you can just
if there's no laundry downstairs and the laundry is upstairs, because a lot of them.
Where is the
laundry? A lot of them
the
do want laundry. So midterm
downstairs.
Yeah, so you probably don't, unless you get like a bin that can lock. Just get a big bin that can lock.
Right. Yeah,
I think IKEA probably has like those closets, right? And maybe just put a lock on those.
And that's really a good point as well too. So what do they typically look for? So they look for storage.
Laundry is a big piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've like, especially if they're staying for a while, they are going to need laundry. That's probably the number one question I get asked. Parking, easy parking for many places. Like, they usually have a car, sometimes two. Pets, if you're allowing pets, there's a lot of places that don't. So you'll get, you know, more visibility in some sense. Fenced backyards are a big one. Like, of course, the decor and then, you know, people make decisions emotionally based on pictures, a lot of them, but location, neighborhoods, always an important one.
So now, are you just doing pictures typically, or do you do like a video walkthrough or drone shots? You need to do all that?
We haven't. We've used pictures. Like, I mean, like, could we down the road, and could we expand potentially?
Okay.
Right now we're using pictures, and they're not, most of them are not physically going to see these properties anyways before they make a decision. So the pictures are definitely, you know, if the investor can make sure that they provide good pictures, because we're like across Canada, we're not going to see every single property. There are some quality checks that we do, but they're more virtual in some markets. But you know, the better the pictures, the more other places is probably going to get rented.
Right.
And it's just like Airbnb, same thing, right? Like, people base it on pictures on top of, you know, budget and stuff like that. But
the difference is we, like, you know, Airbnb, it's like Russian roulette. Like, what will it look like?
Yeah,
like,
true.
I know, I can guarantee you when you walk into that door, it's going to look exactly like the pictures. And the best part is for every booking, you only deal with us. I'm not passing you off to the investor, then the investor communicates. The booking is done through me. The communication while you're staying is done through me up until the checkout. And that gives peace of mind to the company that's working with me, because then they're not sending off their staff or their executives, and not that they lose control once that booking happens. They know any issues, straight to our company. Everything is streamlined. And so that gives sort of an ease as to what to expect.
Right.
And then it's easier.
So I'm out of the picture. Like I don't have to deal with anything. You guys deal with all of it for the most part.
Yeah.
So we're not a property management company, and we don't want to be. In order to scale, we truly have to just be a guest allocation company.
Okay.
So during the time that the guest is in that property, from the start to the finish, they will deal with us. They'll let us know if they need anything, and then we'll let you know. But we don't want to actually be doing the physical management. So, if there is if our guest is not in there and there's something with your property, that's still on you.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And then you arrange the cleaner, so you're in charge of scheduling the cleaner and
That's a
having a
good point.
handyman available in case something happens. If it's nothing we can address, we'll call you and say, "Oh my gosh, Gary, your toilet's flooded. Can you get your handyman there?" You call them, you get them there.
And there's no other way to scale. Like if we were to do property management across the Canada, we'd be done.
Yeah. And listen, and I think we both, all of us here know that property management is probably the most difficult
Yes.
part of your real estate business. I remember we were talking about getting into property management. Thank God we did it. That's a tough business. It's a tough
Yeah.
business, and especially trying to scale it.
And it doesn't pay well, and it doesn't scale well. However, like if we've got a guest there for 6 months and they need something, they'll come to us, and then we'll just kind of communicate that with you, essentially.
And I'm not knocking anybody from starting a property management company or any property management companies that they're doing it.
Yeah, it's tough.
I would love though to see somebody finally take it to that right across Canada.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's
can't
just so
see
difficult.
I cannot see it happening on a scale where it's done well. It's just tough.
very hard to find good staff.
Yeah.
And so, But again, if anyone's looking for a property manager, we are having property managers in the midterm and short-term sector reach out
Yeah.
because it's hard for them to do guest allocation. They don't have the resources we have. They still want to manage. So we can always refer if anyone can't manage their own property, it just won't be us.
Now, do you recommend cleaners in the area? Like, say I've got my property in Bowmanville. Do you recommend a cleaner in that area, or do I got to find my own cleaner and say in any
if you
location?
have your own that you're happy, then we'll go with that. Otherwise, we would source based on referrals of other investors and whatnot. And if we've already got properties in that area, then we would just go with our regular one. So, like for example, like GTA West, we've got like a handful of them that we rotate through that are very good. Here we're, as we expand, then we'll have to build those new connections. But, we had somebody in Waynfleet that like loved her cleaner. And so we're not going to like, suggest another cleaner if they're really happy with the cleaner.
In fact, we'll probably suggest that cleaner to other people
others.
in Waynfleet because she loves her so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess also too, it's important then with your cleaner that's going in there to have an account of what's in that property.
Yes.
Right. Like your lamps and your TV.
So this is very important. Actually, it's very important that you have a cleaner who knows your property. I would recommend to anyone listening, take pictures of your property before the first check-in. How do you want your cupboards to look? How do you want your drawers to look? How do you want your pillow set up? Where do you want your towels laid out? What's there? What furnishing is there? What lamps are there? What are things there that could be broken and removed and then they have a list. And I would also recommend pictures. So when they do that checkout cleaning, they know what's there, and it's good to have a regular cleaner so that cleaner's familiar, and then they walk in, "Oh, Gary, your couch has this massive stain, we got to fix it," or, "Oh, Gary, your lamp is missing, oh, here it is, I found it broken under the bed." And then they can watch for you each time and tell you what needs to be replenished, what needs to be repaired, what needs to be replaced.
Is there a security deposit that you guys take?
For the most part, yeah. Between 500 and 1,000.
Okay. Yeah. So you take that up front, and then after they check out, and then my cleaner goes in, then you would then give the deposit back.
Yeah.
Okay. What about, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into it. What about finishes? Like what should you be focusing on? Kitchens, bedrooms? Like is there a particular area in that house that you should really say, this needs to be top notch?
I mean, if you've got a renovated space, then that's obviously going to do better than the place that's not renovated, right? So something modern, something new, like don't go crazy with the colors, pick 2 accent colors, go from there. If there's an accent wall, those tend to do well. It's just like pictures, right? Just same thing with like short-term rentals, like pictures sell if you've got some really cool amenities as an example.
So like white and eggshell, like I can never tell the damn difference from some of these. Like there's like 50 different white colors, right? But anyways.
I know.
But even like the bedding and the linens, like if it looks like cheap, no, you might not get like a top client that wants to pay top dollars if the bed linens look like they're old and there's wall paneling on the wall. So it is important that the place looks good. I mean, I'm not saying that you're never going to do well. Like it just depends on if you have an older type of place, but if you're the only one in the area, like you could still probably do well,
Right.
For the right location. But if the places that we are renovated that are not basement per se, because a lot of homeowners don't live in basements in general, those will usually rent out faster.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Do you find that a lot of investors right now are shifting to this model? Really?
Yes.
Yes.
We get like right now we have a lot of investor leads. We just have to like still build up, or like it's just growing pains, right? Still build up our guest lists. But investors, like we get like 5 leads a day from investors, because
Really?
the issue is the LTV is worse than it ever was. You have no control in many parts of, I would say, the majority of the provinces, definitely Ontario. You can't raise rents. So why would you want to be behind? Even if it costs you an upfront cost, in my opinion, you're going to be on a long-term rent, you're going to be 40%. If rents go up 20% year over year, which I think they will, you're going to be 40% behind in 2 years. It's worth the cost of putting, furniture into your property and doing that. The other issue is that there's a lot of bylaws coming for short-term rentals. Hamilton's going to be doing their bylaws as of June 1st. And a lot of people that were cash flowing from a short-term perspective, A, because they wanted to have more cash flow, B, because they wanted to have more control, they either are going to, I don't think many of them are going to go back to long-term. I just don't, because A, they probably don't want to deal with the RTA and the LTV bullshit. And they want the control and they want the cash flow. So they're either going to sell and go somewhere like you went to Mexico as an example, or they're going to try to find another gray spot to be creative. And if we can't do, like Toronto has limitations on the short-term rentals. I know London has that too. It is going to come across. All of Ontario will have some bylaws at some point. And some of them are going to be good enough that you can get your licensing and whatnot. But some of them are going to be like, if it's not your primary residence, you can't do it whatsoever, this and that. So they're going to have to make a choice. Do they want to go back to long-term? Do they want to sell? It's not a really good time to sell right now, anything. Or do they want to try this midterm option?
Yeah. Why are they cracking down? What are your thoughts? Why are they cracking on the short-term rental?
I think they think that people are going to go back and list their place back on the long-term market. And they think that it's votes. It's politics. I feel like you and I talk about this quite a bit. Is it actually, in their minds, maybe it'll help bring back some inventory. But I don't think it's going to be,
Yeah, I mean, they're saying it when they're having the committee meetings, that they are saying they want the long-term housing back on the market, but no one's changing the rules that need to be changed, which is the rights of the landlord.
Yeah, and the other thing as well too is that like we're still in a housing crisis, even though interest rates are higher. Like we need like what is it, 1.5 or whatever,
well,
2 million homes.
The number is insane right now.
Yeah, what's that?
The immigration number is insane.
Yeah,
right now. Where are people going to go?
Exactly, and so we need 1.5, 2 million homes by 4 p.m. today.
Well, here's the kicker.
Right.
They've stopped the immigrants that have the money to be able to afford housing from buying the housing, which means they're now only relying on their current housing market or Canadians to purchase these homes. But if you're a Canadian who is an investor that can afford it, are you really going to spend your savings on buying a home with the risk of then paying out of pocket every month to cover the cost of that house because you can't increase the rents to match what it costs to carry?
Yeah.
They're problems and they're solutions that are, in my opinion, they're just weak solutions. They're not, really the solution is to figure out what the supply and demand issue is and start building a heck of a lot more and give investors incentives to convert more, build more, do more, cut the right. I think Ford is on the right track in the sense that he's allowing for singles to be converted into 3 units, but there's still a lot of red tape. And really ultimately, the way that I look at it is many properties they don't cash flow anymore long-term. So it's just a matter of like, are they going to sell and go somewhere else? Or are they going to try to fight it through and be creative? And sometimes, we're creative people. We got to be creative. And they're going to come after the short-term rentals. They're really looking at listings on Airbnb and VRBO. So people that have their house number and the front of their house, take that down, please. So that's where they're getting a lot of their data from as well.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
No, I do not put any. So even like my duplexes, I actually put the pins on Airbnb in different areas altogether. Like they're same like neighborhood, but I don't put them on top of each other because I don't want.
So you don't have the address in there. It's just here is the location, and it kind of gives you a radius.
It gives you a radius, and if you've got multiple units, split it up. Put the pins somewhere different. Yeah. Don't put a front or a backyard picture or something that people can recognize. Definitely don't put the actual address numbers. Like I've seen houses that have like the numbers on Airbnb. I'm like, I don't know. To me, that's a risk I just don't want to take.
So you're shifting a lot of your properties into midterm rentals. Is that what you're trying to do?
Rent controlled is going midterm.
Right.
Anything new, like, because we do a lot of conversions right now. Anything new, like a basement unit, I'd probably just go long term for that. But anything above that, that could be rent controlled, I'm going midterm at least until the rental market settles, and we're not seeing these, because I don't think we've seen the rental market go up yet. Like, I mean, we've seen it go up a bit, but I don't think we're there quite yet. Like the rates are going to catch up, and at some point we're going to really see, I think, a big increase. Yeah.
And I think especially as well, too, with where the interest rates are, you're not seeing as many homes come on the market. So the housing starts to slow down, and that, and you still got immigration coming in. And at the end of the day, people need somewhere to live. What about security cameras?
Yes. Security add them.
Add them?
External only.
Yeah, you can't. Obviously, you can't. But it's so illegal to put internal inside cameras. But I usually do them for like just the driveway area, because I want to know, if it's 2 people that were supposed to check in, I don't want to have 20 people.
Yeah, and and that's a good point as well too. Not only just for midterm rentals, but even like say for real estate agents or real estate investors, when you're walking through homes, be careful of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I love this home. I will pay over asking. And you're just like, shut the hell up.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So be 100%. Careful, because they've got their Nest cameras in there.
Yes.
You don't know where cameras are nowadays, right?
Microphones, cameras. Like we were just in one with Jamil. I don't know if he told you. And the guy was like waiting in his truck outside of the home. Beautiful, like century home, like really nicely taken care of.
Yep.
We put our shoes just a little bit off of the carpet, and he came in and like swiped the floor. Like he was just nuts. But we said, guaranteed there's some cameras in here.
For
guaranteed there's like, so we just like avoided commenting. But yeah, like you probably see it a ton.
Oh, all the time.
Have you ever like actually seen it?
Well, sometimes like in those nests, nests sometimes have it, but you do see it.
Like, have you seen a camera like inside, like right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, like right in the corner, you see it, and it's moving.
I mean, if they own the home still, they're allowed to.
If they're allowed to, it's their house.
It's their house, yeah. 100%. But if you're renting anything, definitely
you can't do that.
Definitely don't put anything inside. But outside, yes. And then I also like to be able to control as much as possible the thermostat, the door unlock and lock button, and then the code changing over if I wanted to do that between renters. On my phone.
So you control the thermostat as well too?
Yeah, you can get like a Nest thermostat.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a certain temperature you have to have in the summer and a certain temperature you have to have in the winter.
Well, that, and if it's empty, for example, for a couple of weeks, like you don't need to heat it at full capacity.
Yeah, for sure. What about insurance?
You need to have.
It's going to be very similar to short-term insurance.
Okay. And what is that?
Probably twice as much as your regular insurance.
Oh, so it's double.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay.
1.5 to 2 times.
But you need to have it because
especially
if you don't have if you're off of the Airbnb platforms, off the external platforms, you don't have their insurance. We have our damage deposit, but that's as far as we're able to cover you.
Right.
But you rely on that short-term insurance to protect you as a homeowner. That is your responsibility.
And that's where now you got to be working with most likely like a broker, 100%. Somebody who has access to be able to go to these different insurance companies.
And we have someone, if you need a referral, we always have people that we can refer that we've used that we know will be able to do exactly what you need. So if you're not able to find your own.
Yeah.
So you guys are a one-stop shop.
Your typical insurance for your cars and your residential houses are not going to likely want to insure your midterm, short-term. So you definitely there's probably like three companies that will do it. So definitely work with a mortgage broker. But yes, we try to keep it as simple as possible. Look, we don't have all the answers, and we're still growing and we're still figuring out, how all the pieces work. But like, I mean, personally, I've been doing this for, a handful of years already. So like if we can, and Aisha's now in it as well. Like if we can help with like at least the connection so you can get it set up, then why not?
Yeah.
And I'll just jump in here to plug, like we also still have our course available. We taught a course from October to December. on midterm rental properties for anyone who wanted to do it themselves, execute themselves, and not need to use us. Maybe they have multiple. And in this course, you will literally learn everything we've talked about in full detail, how to set up, how to guest allocate, where to guest allocate. Like if you're just like, I'm a full-time investor, I don't really want to work with another company, give them a percentage, I can do it myself. This course gives you every single thing you need to know, like from my brain.
14 hours of material.
Yeah.
So you're not teaching it.
We taught it already.
You taught it. So now I can go in and listen to it, their modules on my own terms.
Correct.
And time.
Yeah, and learn everything that we know about how we started this company, everything we know from running this company, we've put on paper, on video. We brought our professionals in. Our paralegal came in, our insurance provider came in, our designers came in, our cleaners came in. Everyone came in to show how are we going to do things? How do you set it up? What do you need to know? It's all there.
Yeah. What about the accounting piece? I know you guys are accountants, but there must be gray areas here.
Yes. Talk to our accountant.
Is that it? Yes, period.
Well,
yeah. I don't want to get too much into that, but I know for my midterms, and I think the issue is your accountant that's putting together your taxes. Some of them may tell you something different, and I've talked to many of them, and I've gotten different feedback. But I set it up from an accounting standpoint as a midterm for now. Again, talk to your accountant, but it looks like a regular rental.
Okay.
From an accounting standpoint. But I'm not an accountant, so you really have to do your due diligence on that.
And I would recommend working with an accountant who has experience in investing.
And this is a very new, but this is also very new. So they're all learning for midterm at the same time. Because like short term was fairly new. Midterm is brand new. Like it literally probably is something that came out like, I want to say a couple of years.
Do you see any issues with them wanting to try to, well, they're obviously going to want to regulate it at some level, but shutting it down, like attacking it like they're attacking short term? Do you see any reason why they would? I don't see that. I mean, I don't know. Because I mean, especially if you're saying that a lot of times these are homeowners, these are people come like from the corporate world, and they need somewhere to stay.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's a need, right? Like I like to stay at recreational properties. It's nice for me to stay at recreational properties, but where do I stay?
Yeah.
I don't want to stay in a hotel. I have a family. I want a kitchen. I have a pet. I didn't want a backyard. You know, so I think, I'll let Sarah jump into it. I think it's a need, and I think if they took that, then what? Because hotels and all these other places.
It's hard to regulate because like where are they going to really regulate it from? Like it doesn't all come from Airbnb. It doesn't all come from VRBO. Like a lot of it is actually tapping into our networks. So like, I mean, you're a realtor. How many realtors do you have here? 100?
150. Okay.
So many of them probably have clients that are in between homes and need a place for like a month or two. So they all connect to you for your property. How would they ever be able to pinpoint that back? Like it's not on a platform.
Yeah.
It's not on a platform per se. So
yeah, and the other thing as well too, like I think I see potentially, and there's obviously maybe a couple different angles here, but I can see why they're attacking short term.
Yeah.
Like if I owned a hotel, you're murdering my business. But for midterm, hotels don't want midterm.
No.
Right? They just want the short term, like 2-3 days or whatever it may be, right? Maybe a week.
And could they regulate it down the road? Maybe, but I don't know how they would really know. Because like it could be 6 months. It could be 8 months. It's just the kind of client that we're bringing in.
Yeah. Anything else? I think I touched on most of it. Is there anything I didn't touch on?
I would just say, remember, when people are looking at the short-term market, I get a lot of like, well, my house has been on Airbnb. It's not doing well. How are you any different? Just remember our client base is very different from short-term. We're not recreational. We're not seasonal. We're very much in need. The need to stay in a midterm property will not change. CEOs moving around will not change. People between insurance claims will not change. Those needs will always be there despite the economy. Their budgets might change, but the need and the way we're sourcing our guests is very unique to we don't just plop it on a public platform and hope for the best. We're very active. We have an entire team searching out there, handing your property to all of our guests. Yeah.
The midterm stay doesn't seem to be so much like say like short term, like it's vacational. You can cut back on your vacations and things like that, but the midterm, if it's coming from the corporate world,
Yeah.
those businesses generally are going to continue to keep running and doing those meetings and sending their execs to different locations.
And Aisha mentioned insurance adjusters as an example. Like people have fires, people have floods, people need to leave their houses. That's always going to happen regardless. Like there's lots of, I mean, we only are scraping the surface on the types of clients that these can be, but there is a ton of people out there that need a place for a few months at a time.
Yeah. Divorce,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like you're saying, somebody moves, their home's not quite ready yet. There's so many different angles from this. I really like it. I'm actually really definitely, I'm going to move into it slowly and then see how this first property goes. And then I think I might maybe start converting some of my other properties into midterm.
That's
and I'll be
how
coming
I
to
started.
you because I want nothing to do with it.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the beauty is we're here because we know investors, on top of being investors, you have other things on your plate. This isn't something that you have the need or want to build into. And just one more opportunity to let you know, we're starting monthly in-person events where people can come and learn more about midterms, learn more about what we're doing, talk to our professionals, meet each other. Like we really want people to feel comfortable in the space and understand how we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Because if we work together, because remember, you are an investor. An example, you're also a realtor. Sarah could be an investor, but she could also be a nurse.
Yeah.
I could be an investor and also be a doctor. And those industries have a need for our service. So we also want people to look at us not only from an investing standpoint where you can give us your property, but what can we do for your other career and the people that you are also connected with, your colleagues and your team members. Bring them to us because we can help source them for that as well. One-stop shop, super easy and no unknowns.
Okay, so based on what I've heard here today, you guys got the job.
Thank you so much.
However, we got to go through my boss first, all right? Which is Darlene. We all know that.
We all know that.
But here's the beauty of it. You still do your thing. We're just guest allocation. So that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Is if you're like, hey, find me some guests, and in the meantime, you're still doing your own stuff on VRBO and Airbnb. That's cool.
Yeah, there's no exclusivity. We're not pigeonholing you.
So like really, ultimately, like you're not like it costs you $150 because it costs us money to get our admins and stuff like that to put everything up. But like we're not getting paid until we find you a guest, and you're like, hey, I'll take this guest.
Got it. But there is a contract that we obviously sign.
Yeah, with like your like essentially your minimums of like how much you'd want per month for each of the properties. But you go out and you still get your own people. Don't rely just on us. We're going to just help you as like an add-on service.
Got it. So if anybody wants to learn more about what you guys have going on, websites, contact, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Midtermrentalproperties.com is our website. And we have the Instagram handle as well with the same name.
Yep.
And that's probably the two best ways.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Always great hanging out with you guys.
Yes.
I think the next one, I want to do we just talk about anything.
Yes.
Those ones, the
political
uncensored
BS that's happening. We just don't carry.
This is more wine
people,
when Sarah doesn't
people
have to drive.
cannot be offended.
Yeah.
That's the criteria. Don't be offended. Gary and I go into some crazy conversations sometimes.
Yeah, we love the conspiracy. Listen, I love the conspiracy theory stuff. I don't believe them all, but I like looking at them because I think you should always know every angle.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is
conversation
the next,
for a lot more wine.
That's exactly that'll be the next podcast. Keep an eye out for the next podcast with me and Sarah. We're going to be going into the deep dark stuff. But for now, listen, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show, Midterm Rentals. I'm going into it. I think some of you guys should make that shift as well too. If you're in the red for some of your properties, I think this is a great opportunity. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, take care. Today's show is brought to you by Deep Pockets. Are you looking to borrow or invest funds? Deep Pockets is a preferred choice for secure lending. As a borrower, you have the option with flexible terms and repayment plans, as we have flexible credit criteria and income approvals. As an investor, you get to be the bank using your cash. You can use your RRSPs, your LIRAs, and even your TFSAs. Earn maximized cash flow or return with no out-of-pocket expenses.
Thanks for listening to today's show with Gary Hibbert. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with your host on Instagram @Gary Hibbert. Until next time, stay mindful and remember, you don't have to be great to start. Just start, and you'll be on the path to being great.